Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and this being the first review video for the weekends and for the first month / the new year. That's right, and I think I picked this is perfect for, for me to review this, for this being the first review video, you know what I mean? Yes, I am finally reviewing, I think, what is probably the best Disney short film in a long time, and especially for this being for Disney's 100th. That's right, I am finally reviewing Once Upon a Studio. Yes, I've been eager to watch it and, of course, to review it. Yeah, Once Upon a Studio, I don't know where to start, because everything about this, how it turned out, and I just remember being so excited for this, knowing what this was going to be like, and I'm sure that goes for every Disney lover / fan, and those who grew up with so many beloved classic animated feature films from Disney themselves, for all of them to come together in celebration of Disney's 100th. Like, this was a big deal. Like, this was something that definitely, it was going to make Disney history, and with no doubt be fantastic, and sure enough, it did. What the two directors of the short film, Once Upon a Studio, Dan Abraham and Trent Corey, what they brought to Once Upon a Studio, they did a fantastic job. And both Dan and Trent, they're no strangers to doing something Disney. They've done a lot of Disney work, especially, they've directed a couple of Frozen materials, yeah. So, for them to do this, hey, this was a perfect opportunity for them to do this, and especially since there have been a couple of interviews, with both Dan and Trent, where, them being hardcore Disney fans like us, and how many characters they wanted to feature in this short film, this 9-minute short film. Imagine if this went on maybe for, 20 minutes, or maybe if this was a movie. Could you imagine? There would be so much more that they could have done for this, because of how many characters were in this. Like, the whole library of Disney characters from all of the Disney animated feature films in the Disney canon. Yeah, and the Disney animation canon, there is a name to it. I think I'm just about... I got it right there. The Disney animation canon, it does sound about right. But anyways, so as always, read the description / the story. In an all-star ensemble of beloved Disney animation characters come together in Once Upon a Studio for a joyful, entertaining, and emotional reunion as they assemble for a spectacular group photo to celebrate Disney's 100th anniversary. Okay, so Once Upon a Studio taking place at the Roy E. Disney Animations building, the animation studio building, etc. We see, because all the animators / workers at the animation building, they're leaving, done for the day, and we get an appearance of a college intern, played by Renika Williams, and the late Disney legend Bernie Madison. And this being Bernie Madison's final on-screen appearance. And fun fact, because the directors confirmed that Bernie Madison did get to see a rough cut of the film, and he was just totally, happy with it. He was amazed with it, and it was nice to hear that knowing that Bernie did get to see what he would be a part of, and how he lived up to when Disney made it, to 100 years. Yep, and may Bernie Madison rest in peace. And the fact that, Once Upon a Studio is dedicated to, Bernie's memory. So, yeah. So once they leave the building, and even Bernie Madison saying, if these walls could talk, and sure enough, and when we get the title of the short, well, all of the Disney characters start coming out of their portraits, and not to mention that Once Upon a Studio is based off of the Night at the Museum films, the Night at the Museum franchise, which makes a lot of sense. And it was pretty clever, and I think, because the directors were asking, how can, we bring these characters to life? Well, and the best way for them to come to life and, roaming through the animation building is through portraits, pictures hanging on the walls. That makes a whole lot of sense. And we, of course, first get the appearance of Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse. Minnie now being voiced by Caitlin Robrock, I think it's Robrock, if I'm pronouncing her last name right, and you know me sometimes. And Mickey Mouse, being voiced by, I thought he was going to be voiced by Brett Iwan. Am I saying his last name right too? The main current voice of Mickey, but no, he was voiced by Chris Damian Tupalus, if I'm even saying his last name right, who he has been voicing Mickey in those Mickey Mouse shorts, and with the Mickey and Minnie attraction at Hollywood Studios, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Yeah, he was voicing Mickey in those short films. So that's nice to see it. He's good at doing Mickey too, and and he did a really good job voicing Mickey for Once Upon a Studio. We also see Tinkerbell, and Mickey asks Tinkerbell if the coast is clear, and yeah, of course the coast is clear, and now everybody can get out of their portraits, and, Minnie, saying, let's get the gang together, yoo-hoo! And we basically see all of these Disney characters, especially, another thing about Once Upon a Studio, and according to the directors, with all these characters, most of them who we haven't seen in a long time, and as best said by the directors, you would see Cinderella or Stitch, and especially Mickey and the gang, but you wouldn't see characters like, say, the Bolt characters, or the Emperor's New Groove characters, the Great Mouse Detective, Atlantis, Treasure Planet, Pete's Dragon, need I go on? And yeah, and most of them, a couple of Disney characters, it's archival audio of some of the actors who had voiced them, like Bobby Driscoll, archive recordings of him as Peter Pan, Cliff Edwards as Jiminy Cricket, Verna Felton as Flora, and also there was Sterling Holloway. Of course, you have to have Sterling Holloway, and Robert Guillaume, however his name is last pronounced, I'm sorry, Rafiki. Yeah, so they brought his voice back. And Sterling Holloway, as I mentioned, because we once again hear him as the voices of the Cheshire Cat, Caw the Snake, and Winnie the Pooh. And we also have Barbara Luddy as Merryweather. And there's also archival audio of Clarence Nash, the original voice of Donald Duck, but alongside with Clarence Nash, Tony Anselmo also recording new dialogue for Donald for this. And they're still listed in the IMDb page, a couple that we never really heard their voices, like Bob Newhart, archival recordings of him as Bernard, and a few others that I know I didn't hear the voices of, like there was what's-his-face, Billy Joel, archival recordings of him as Dodger from Oliver and Company. Well, all that we get of Dodger is just him, howling, because he catches a ride with Vanellope von Schweetz in her candy go-kart, and some actors who, I assume were not able to come back, and not all of them were available to reprise their roles. Like Sarah Silverman, archival recordings of her as Vanellope, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, archival recordings of him as Jim Hawkins. Yeah, it was really cool. And also Awkwafina, archival recordings of her. Where is she? IMDb sometimes, for this, like, it's just random, you know, how they're listed. Yeah, Aquafina as Sisu, yeah, the dragon from Rayan the Last Dragon, archival recordings of Aquafina, and even, I didn't hear his voice, Stephen J. Anderson, archival recordings of him as the bowler hat guy. However, speaking of bowler hat guy, another character from Meet the Robinsons who came back to voice a character that he voiced in Meet the Robinsons, Harland Williams came back to voice Carl the robot from Meet the Robinsons. Yeah, we do see the bowler hat guy. We also see Lewis and Wilbur. Yeah, Lewis and Wilbur. And it's just amazing just seeing all these characters roaming around, and they're preparing and making their way outside of the building to prepare for the group photo. And I was really happy to have heard and to have to hear Nathan Lane back voicing Timon. Oh, it was good to hear Nathan Lane's voice and to hear him once again voice Timon. And this was a pretty good scene where Timon and Pumbaa appear. They passed by Olaf, and right before they show up on screen, there was a flying lost boy. Actually, that lost boy, and if any of you know or do not know about this, that flying lost boy who resembles Robin Williams, the face, if you could tell, you know, that lost boy comes from a now extinct/defunct show that used to be at Disney's MGM Studios, and before it was called Disney's Hollywood Studios, called Back to Neverland, and where Robin Williams, he's in this documentary film, and, you know, he's having fun at Disney, and then a little bit later on, he does a voice for, like, a Peter Pan film where he's a lost boy and taking on Captain Hook. If anybody knows about that, that was really awesome for them to feature that lost boy. And after we see that last lost boy fly by, we then of course see Timon and Pumbaa, and, you know, they're passing by Olaf, who's drawing something, and Timon, his delivery of dialogue and what he says to Olaf, "Hey Frosty, shake a leg, will ya?" That was really funny. Timon calling Olaf Frosty. Yeah. And it turns out, Olaf, once again being voiced by Josh Gad, he was drawing Genie and bringing Genie to life, and obviously, you know, for the group photo. And of course, archival recordings of the one and only Robin Williams. It was great to hear his voice, and, you know, I think for Josh Gad, this was a big thing for him to, you know, have a Disney character that he voices to be on screen and interact with Genie, because Josh Gad has stated that ever since he saw Aladdin, and, you know, he loved the character Genie, and no doubt about it, he was a Robin Williams fan, how he dreamed of doing something Disney and voicing that kind of character. Yeah, because, you know, any goofy sidekick Disney character in any Disney animated feature film they're always the best Disney characters, don't you think? And the archival recordings of Robin Williams, like the dialogue they did, like, it was pretty funny, you know, "I haven't seen a fall like that since Rome." Yeah. And it was nice because, fun fact, they got permission from Robin Williams' estate, yeah, if I'm saying that right, and also with the support of Robin's daughter, Zelda, and his family, and no doubt about it, because even the directors stated that Robin's family got a kick out of what they were doing and how they were going to, you know, feature Genie. And yeah, and I don't see why Robin's family would would not approve for this, because it's understandable, and this is Disney and what this short film is like, you know what I mean? And after that, we then see a group of Disney characters, like, in a bathroom, looking at themselves in the mirror, just getting all glamorous, you know, for the group photo. Like, there's Happy, one of the 7 dwarves, Thomas O'Malley, the Headless Horseman, but he has no head. But you know what? That's part of the joke. That's why it's funny. We even see Chicken Little, Milo Thatch from Atlantis, The Lost Empire. Prince John and Gaston. Gaston, once again, being voiced by Richard White. I think got his last name right. Well, where is he? Because I gotta find him. Again, like I said, with Once Upon a Studio's IMDb page, they're just randomly listed. Yeah, Richard White. Richard White, he comes back to voice Gaston, and he still got it. Because he still sounds exactly like Gaston. And it was pretty funny because, well, Gaston, you know, being Gaston, every guy here loved to be you, Gaston, and kissing his biceps. And sure enough, we see the Cheshire Cat, you know, pop up and just, you know, taunting Gaston a little. It was pretty funny. And it was also funny when Minnie came in and she was covering her eyes. Well, they weren't naked. But hey, that was funny. And to name off more Disney characters that we see and who came back to voice them, well, Scott Weinger, if I'm saying it correctly, his last name, came back to voice Aladdin. The archival recordings of Mark Walton as Rhino, you know, the hamster in the ball, you know, from Bolt. Yeah, so only Rhino was the only Bolt character that, you know, spoke. Alan Tudyk in this got to finally voice the Mad Hatter. And if you know Alan Tudyk, you know very well that he loves doing an impression of Ed Wynn. He nails doing an Ed Wynn impression, especially when he did the voice of King Candy in Wreck-It Ralph. Like, that was pure Ed Wynn right there. Kelly Mary Train came back to voice Raya, you know, Raya and the Last Dragon. Natalie Babbitt Taylor, if I'm saying her middle name right, voices Snow White. And Josh Robert Thompson voices Grumpy in this, and he was pretty good as Grumpy. And knowing Josh Robert Thompson, I remember him best. He can do some pretty good celebrity impressions, like Robert De Niro, Morgan Freeman. And if any of you know Josh Robert Thompson, we would know him best as the voice of the robot skeleton sidekick Jeff Peterson from The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson. Yeah, so he was pretty good doing voice. He was good voicing Grumpy. Yeah, for Once Upon a Studio. And apparently he's listed, even though it was Bobby Driscoll. Lee Slobodkin, if I'm saying his last name right, he was the voice of Peter Pan. Leah Salonga, however her last name's pronounced, she was the voice of Mulan, just the singing voice of Mulan. Yeah, because a couple of the Disney princesses' singing voices came back for this. Again, Mulan's singing voice and Pocahontas' singing voice, which being Judy Kuhn, if I'm saying her last name right, yeah, her being the singing voice of Pocahontas. So yeah, her coming back to voice Pocahontas in Once Upon a Studio, that was nice. Also, there was a funny moment where we first see Stromboli, and archival recordings of Charles Judels, if I'm saying that right. Stromboli, we see Stromboli fighting with the vending machine. Yeah, because sometimes vending machines can be a pain in the butt, you know. And for Stromboli and his temper, oh, that was great. And Elsa and Anna passing by Stromboli. And once again, Elsa and Anna being voiced by Kristen Bell and Idina Menzel. And Anna is questioning if all of the Disney villains are going to be there for the group photo, and Elsa, both Elsa and Anna, passing by a portrait of Hans, and Elsa saying, not all of them, and basically freezing Hans, attempting to get out of his portrait. Sorry, Hans, but you're not going to be in the group photo. And also, we even see Kristoff. Yeah, Kristoff. And once again, Kristoff being voiced by, where is he too? Jonathan Groff. Jonathan Groff once again voicing Kristoff, because he and a couple of other Disney characters, that are walking with him, like Mole and Rat from Wind of the Willows, they're there. Kristoff notices that the Dalmatian puppies are watching Night on Bald Mountain, and he warns them, just to be careful what they're watching, and telling the puppies that, they need to be there for the group photo. And we see Chernabog, pop out of the TV and scaring the pups. That was funny. And fun fact, because, we do see Chernabog appear in this, but he's not there in the group photo. And it turns out that they weren't really able to put in any, humongous giant characters like Chernabog or Paul Bunyan, in the group photo. Because, the directors confirmed that Paul Bunyan was in consideration, but again, they just weren't able to have him or Chernabog, be part of the group photo. Well, because of how big they are, especially because, Paul Bunyan and Chernabog, because, he's the size of a mountain, and with him being on top of Bald Mountain, that's understandable, but it was still nice to see that Chernabog made an appearance, and it would have been nice if they could have found a way to still have Paul Bunyan make an appearance as well. And speaking of Paul Bunyan, it's nice because, of course they have to, include them in this short film. Many characters from the Disney packaged films, from the 1940s, from, say, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, The Three Caballeros, Panchito and Jose, Make My Music and Melody Time. Yeah, it was nice to see all those Disney characters from the Disney packaged films be in this, and of course, they'd have to be in there. Also, can't forget to mention this, because we, of course, get the appearance of Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde. And once again, Judy Hopps being voiced by Jennifer Goodwin, and Nick Wilde being voiced by Jason Bateman, because when they get out of their portrait, as well as Tiana, and Tiana once again being voiced by Anika Noni Rose. I think I got her middle name right. Because they get out of their portraits, and Lewis getting out of his portrait and accidentally, laying on top of Nick Wilde, and him blowing his tiny trumpet, and also, because I mentioned Carl the Robot and, Donald Duck, because there was one moment where we see Donald, Carl, Mother Gothel, from Tangled, and Turk. They're in this elevator, and we see Flash, the sloth from Zootopia. Flash, 100-yard dash, as Nick calls him. And, of course, Flash, once again, being voiced by Raymond S. Percy. Because Flash, him being slow, just, hold the elevator. And when we cut back to them still being on the elevator and holding it for Flash, it was really funny. And Donald just trying to keep it together, knowing Donald. And, Flash saying to Donald, "Thank you for holding the elevator," however he said it. And after Flash steps in the elevator, then Baymax gets in the elevator as well. And Baymax, once again, being voiced by Scott Adsit, if I'm saying his last name right, I'm pretty sure, yeah. So, of course, you have to have Baymax in there, and he has to have some dialogue. And, of course, Baymax being Baymax, he never fails to, give us a good laugh, and just him getting in the elevator, just like almost like squishing everybody. That was funny. Other characters that we see roaming through the building and making their way outside. We at one point see the Winnie the Pooh characters from Christopher Robin, Kanga, Eeyore, trying to help Pooh get out of the portrait. And again, as I said earlier, archival recordings of Sterling Holloway as Pooh Bear. And we see Antonio from Encanto, who has the capability / power to talk and interact with animals. And he's interacting and talking with a lot of Disney animals from, say, Miku the raccoon from Pocahontas. That was pretty cool and clever and makes sense. He can interact with any Disney animals who we do not see talking, again, because Miko is the best example. Even like, say, when the Dalmatian puppies were terrified of Chernabog, because when they ran, they accidentally bumped into Scrooge McDuck, and I think a bit of archival recordings of Alan Young as Scrooge. They bump into him, and Scrooge just joins in the ride with the pups. The pups take Scrooge with them, and he accidentally dropped his bag of money. And sure enough, Robin Hood and Little John, they step out of their portraits and they grab the money. And, both of them saying, "Ooda lolly." That was really cool. And both Robin Hood and Little John being voiced by Richard Epcar, if I'm saying that right, yeah. And Robin Hood being voiced by... who was it? The voiced Robin Hood? Let me see. Yeah, Daniel Wolf, if I'm saying that right, yeah. And also, because I mentioned Alan Tudyk voicing Mad Hatter, because there was one moment where we see Moana, because, of course, Moana appearing, and Moana once again being voiced by Ali Cravalho, if I'm saying her full name right. She catches Flounder, and he has no water, and he's begging for water. He's saying, water! And Flounder, in Once Upon a Studio, being voiced by... who voiced Flounder? Because he's in here somewhere. Again, IMDb, them randomly listing them. Flounder being voiced by... I don't see him. I don't know if is he listed? Yeah, okay. So, and he's right down to Nathan Lane. How did I miss that? Flounder being voiced by Luke Lau, if I'm saying that right. So Flounder begging for water, and Moana goes to the cafeteria, and we see Cogsworth, Merlin, and we also see, the March Hare and the Mad Hatter, of course, and what's her face? Lewis's adoptive mother, from Meet the Robinsons. She's back there, and Cogsworth being voiced by, in this, Bob Joles. And Bob Joles, he did a pretty good impression of David Ogden Stiers, and, voicing Cogsworth. Not bad, Bob. And also in the cafeteria, there was Mrs. Potts and Chip and the waiter penguins from Mary Poppins. Hey, good for them appearing in this. And seeing as how they were in a couple of other Disney materials, like, say, House of Mouse and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where they appeared in. So yeah, nice to see. And also, a bunch of more Disney characters that we see, and I just can't forget to mention. Prep and Landing, they appear in this. Good for them. Good for them appearing in Once Upon a Studio. And seeing Cody from The Rescuers Down Under catching a ride with Elliot, the dragon. That was pretty cool. And Gus and Jacques from Cinderella. Yeah, it's Jacques, right? Am I pronouncing that right? Yeah. And archival recordings of Jacques and Gus being voiced by James McDonald. Again, archival recordings of James McDonald voicing the two Cinderella mice. And they're almost about to get eaten by Joanna from The Rescuers Down Under, and archival recordings of Frank Welker voicing Joanna, and also Abu, because yeah, Frank Welker being credited for, archival recordings of Abu and Joanna. So again, Joanna almost about to eat Jacques and Gus, but thanks to Pluto, stops Joanna, scaring Joanna. That was pretty good. And then at one point, we then come to a stairway, and we see that Ursula is being followed by that alien, like, gooey creature, whatever, I forget his name, but, from Strange World, because we see hearts, and he's in love with Ursula, and archival recordings of Pat Carroll voicing Ursula, and, Ursula just saying, oh, no. And then we see Prince Charming and Cinderella making their way down the stairs, and this was pretty funny. This time, the prince lost his shoe, and then, sure enough, Max, the dog from The Little Mermaid, he got a hold of the prince's shoe, and the prince, saying, Max and Eric, control your dog, and Cinderella finds this funny, go Max, go, encouraging Max, that was pretty funny. And Cinderella, once again, being voiced by Jennifer Hale, Cinderella's current voice actress, yeah. And Prince Charming in this being voiced by Keith Ferguson. Yeah, I know Keith Ferguson. I know I've seen him in a bunch of other stuff where he's done voice acting. And then at one point, as Mickey makes his way down the stairs, I think coming up to the stairs, he sees Ka hypnotizing Clarabelle Cow. That was funny. And sure enough, Rapunzel steps in, and Rapunzel, once again, being voiced by Mandy Moore, telling Mickey that, don't worry, Mickey, I've got this. She's got the frying pan, and literally, because smacking Ka on the head just to get him to knock it off, that was funny. Also, Dwayne Johnson came back to voice Maui, and that was pretty cool, so... And after that, because after Rapunzel hit Ka with the frying pan, and, we see Mickey once again, well, he comes up to a portrait of Walt Disney, and apparently, this is the first time ever in Disney history where Mickey and Walt share a scene together. Like, this never happened. Like, if you look at some of the, past Disney materials and, with footage of Walt Disney, there were times where he was interacting with animated characters, like he interacted with Donald, Tinkerbell, I think Ludwig von Drake, and by the way, because Ludwig von Drake, he too appearing in Once Upon a Studio. Yeah, Walt and Mickey never shared a scene together. Whether if they never thought of doing it, or if Walt himself never wanted to do something like this, share a scene with Mickey, it's unknown, I think. And yeah, this being the first time ever that they share a scene together, you know what? That was the perfect opportunity for that to happen in Once Upon a Studio. And it's nice because when we see the portrait of Walt, we hear a little snippet on the piano of Feed the Birds, Walt's favorite song. Yeah, because if you know the behind the scenes and the making of Mary Poppins, something about Feed the Birds, like, there was something about that song that Walt loved. Yeah, and just it was nice that they played that, and of course they had to. And so after that moment, we see all of the Disney characters, making their way outside. Like, there was Kronk from The Emperor's New Groove, the bowler hat guy, and even Mr. Toad. He was riding on the magic carpet. That was funny. And seeing Ralph, Wreck-It Ralph, that is, once again being voiced by John C. Reilly. Ralph bumping into the doors, the entry doors, that was funny, and Scar popping up, and Scar, once again, being voiced by Jeremy Irons. Like, Jeremy Irons once again voicing Scar. That was awesome. It was nice to see that they got Jeremy Irons back for this, and what the directors said about what it was like directing Jeremy Irons. That was pretty cool. And, you know, Scar, his comment and seeing Ralph, like, unconscious after hitting the door, and it was funny because Ralph called Mickey Garfield. That was funny. And Scar saying, "I'm surrounded by idiots." Oh, that was great. And, you know, a memorable quote from Scar, don't you think? And again, Mr. Toad coming out of the building, riding on Aladdin's magic carpet. We see Ichabod Crane, you know, ducking because Goofy has the ladder. And out of any Disney character, anybody to take the group photo, they chose Goofy. Oh my gosh, you know. And it was, of course it was funny and what would come next for Goofy. And also, we at one point see, Jacques and Trusty from Lady and the Tramp, and archival recordings of Bill, Biocom, if I'm not sure if I'm saying his last name right, but, you know, the original voice of Trusty, archival recordings of him. And again, archival recordings of Flora and Fauna, as I mentioned earlier. And at one point, Flora turns the sorcerer's hat, you know, that, you know, on top of the Disney animation building, she turns it to pink, and Merryweather, because I meant Merryweather, Flora and Merryweather, because if I said Fauna, Merryweather turns it back to blue. Like, Flora should know that the color blue is for the sorcerer's hat. Like, what was she thinking? And so, yeah, everybody is all together, and we even see Oswald, the lucky rabbit, in there. It was nice to see Oswald, and archival recordings of David Spade as Cusco, because Oswald was a bit close to Cusco, and Cusco's saying to Oswald, "No touchy." And we see Cusco in his llama form. Of course, you have to have Cusco in his llama form. That's what everybody remembers him best for, Cusco as a llama. And so, Rafiki handing Goofy the camera, and Goofy, trying to turn on the camera, and, you know, he's trying to stay balanced on the ladder. And we then cut to Iago and Jafar, and Iago in Once Upon a Studio being voiced by, Piotr Michael, I'm not sure if I'm saying his first name right. Yeah, so he voiced Iago in this, and Iago was counting down, 1, 2, 3, like, Iago knew what was coming, and sure enough, yeah, Goofy does, crash and fall, and, yeah, the camera breaks. Yeah, that was a shame. And all the Disney characters are disappointed by this, like Grumpy's comment, and Eeyore, he gets a line, and Eeyore in this being voiced by Jim Miskaman, if I'm saying his last name right. I know him, like, he's done a lot of voice acting, and he does a pretty good Robin Williams impression. So yeah, he voices Eeyore in this, as well as Merlin, and everybody's disappointed, and Mickey is, like, trying to tell them, like, to not go back inside, and, they all can still do this. And sure enough, Alan the Dale Rooster from Robin Hood starts it off playing When You Wish Upon a Star on his instrument, and then all the other Disney characters join in, like Scat Cat and Colonel Haffy Jr. and Maribel, she's playing on an accordion, and then Belle and Beast start to sing, and Belle and Beast once again being voiced by Paige O'Hara and Robbie Benson, Pocahontas joining in, Ariel, once again, being voiced by Jodie Benson, and Quasimodo singing a bit of When You Wish Upon a Star. And Quasimodo, if you think Jeremy Irons was not enough, like, they brought back Tom Hulce as the voice of Quasimodo, and Quasimodo singing, like, oh, it was nice to see Tom Hulce come back to voice/sing as Quasimodo, and singing a little bit of When You Wish Upon a Star. Yeah, and seeing the gargoyles, that was great too. And even when we came up to Ariel singing, and Scuttle started to sing too, and Scuttle in this, even though we just hear him go, wah, 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 Jess Harnell voices Scuttle in this, and then we see Baloo closing Scuttle's beak, and we then see Baloo and Mowgli singing When You Wish Upon a Star, and Mowgli in this, just, Mowgli singing, being voiced by Phoenix Reger, I think I'm saying that right. And Baloo's singing, Baloo being voiced by Jim Cummings. And yeah, I think Jim Cummings did pretty good voicing Baloo and singing as Baloo. But not only does Jim Cummings sing as Baloo, he also sings as Winnie the Pooh, because Winnie the Pooh sings a little bit of When You Wish Upon a Star. It was nice to see. And we see the broomsticks at one point cleaning the mess, the broomsticks from Fantasia, obviously, and Fix-It-Felix Jr. stepping in, fixing the camera, and yeah, Goofy can now take the picture, and Tinkerbell uses a bit of pixie dust, to make Goofy fly, the camera as well, and all of the other Disney characters singing When You Wish Upon a Star, and of course, archival recordings of Cliff Edwards, Jiminy Cricket, singing When You Wish Upon a Star. But not only that, Asha from Wish, she appears alongside with Snow White and Mulan. And it was nice that, yeah, Asha and Snow White, they were holding hands. And I remember hearing that there was going to be a shot where we see Asha and Snow White, and along with them, Mulan holding hands and singing When You Wish Upon a Star. Yeah, that was a good moment right there. Just, Disney began with Snow White, with Disney animated feature films, and, with Asha. I think, yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And Asha, being voiced by, well, the voice of Asha, Ariana DeBose, if I'm saying her last name right, and just seeing this one big shot of all these characters outside the Disney Animation Building. Oh my gosh, you can see the characters from Dinosaur, the rest of the characters from Atlantis, the Lost Empire, Pedro, the little airplane, Susie, the little blue car, all the other characters from Rayan, the Last Dragon, the characters from Strange World, Home on the Range, yeah, the three cows, Maggie, Mrs. Calloway, and Grace. Nice to see them. And the characters from Brother Bear, the Great Mouse Detective. Need I go on? It was just that one shot. And when the picture is finally taken, that was great. That was a great way to end it right there. Also, I can't forget to mention this, because when the song When You Wish Upon a Star began, and Belle and Beast were the first two to sing it, we then cut to Hades, and Hades, once again, being voiced by the one and only James Woods. Yeah, it was great to hear James Woods as the voice of Hades once again. And Hades saying, knew this was coming. Yeah, and it was great to see that James Woods voiced Hades, and they got him back for this. And James Woods has stated that he will continue to voice Hades whenever needed, because Hades is one of his all-time favorite roles. And yeah, Once Upon a Studio was the perfect opportunity for him to, once again, voice Hades. And right before Once Upon a Studio ends and with the credits, we get a quote that says, "To all who have imagined with us, laughed with us, and dreamed with us, thank you." Yeah, a great way to end it right there with that quote. Yeah. And the end credits, we see a bunch of Disney characters, and they're interacting with each other. That was really, really cool and funny. And, and even Stitch, because his moments, and in fact, he ate one of the end credits, and as we see during when the credits roll, that was funny. And archival recordings of Chris Sanders, voicing Stitch, because he even tried to eat something from the camera when it broke, and yeah, because it dropped, that was pretty funny. Yeah, just, wow, just what a heck of a Disney short film this was. Like, what more do I have to say? Once Upon a Studio is perfect, fantastic, a masterpiece of a Disney short film. For this being a 9-minute Disney short film, it was worth it. Again, imagine if this went on for, say, 20 minutes, or if this went on for an hour long. If this was a movie, there could have been so much that they could have done, but, for this being 9 minutes, it's understandable, and it was worth it. It definitely was. And, especially because other fun facts I'd like to mention, and coming from the directors, they not only did they bring back a good chunk of celebrities and, those who voiced the Disney characters, even seeing the behind the scenes of them recording their lines, and some of them, saying thank you, and thank you for having me be a part of this, was nice and sweet to hear from them, definitely. And, okay, so not only did they bring back who they were able to bring back voicing the characters, but a good chunk of animators who animated some of the Disney characters from, say, The Lion King, Aladdin, and, the computer animated Disney characters. Yeah, they brought them back. Like, most notably, Eric Goldberg came back to animate Genie for this. Yeah, so if you get what I'm saying, like, that was nice to see. Yeah. And just all the Disney characters that they brought to this 9-minute short film, fantastic. Need I go on? Just everything about Once Upon a Studio was fantastic. And definitely, I'm giving it 10 out of 10 stars. That's right, 10 out of 10 stars for Once Upon a Studio. And what about you guys? What did you think of Once Upon a Studio itself? And the first time that you watched it, was it on ABC, on the big screen, alongside with Wish, on Disney Plus, YouTube? Did you get emotional, and were you just blown away by what was going on? Let me know, and what did you think of my review? Leave comments, and give this review video a like, as always. So, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Once Upon a Studio. More review videos are on the way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video/review. Take care, peace out, and happy 100th anniversary to Disney.